One returns after being away for a year, with the FIA taking the decision to cancel the 2018 season and the remainder of the 2017 season after the Austrian Grand Prix. Many teams were concerned that F1 could be eliminated from racing altogether. However, Liberty Media stepped in and said they would be putting Formula 1 up to sale. Subsequently, crisis talks were held with the teams and Liberty Media, the FIA, and a couple of new sponsors of Heineken and H&M. The agreement was reached that 2019 would be a full 16-race season rather than having just a handful of races that could possibly be ready in time for 2018. Subsequently, H&M bought a 30% stake out of Liberty Media, and Heineken bought a 35% stake. The teams bought a 5% stake out of Liberty Media, with percentage points will be divided up even further should new teams join the sport. And Liberty Media retained the remainder 30%. They said they were happy to do so and work with H&M, this Swedish retailer, and Heineken, the drinks company, to work on Formula 1 as a joint venture with all three of them. The existing management structure of Ross Brawn would be retained, although Ross would now would have to answer to a board rather than answering to Chase Carey. Chase Carey took up his position, though, on that board. Without a doubt, let's move to the teams. Many teams have seen some changes over the years, but one team that has remained constant throughout Formula 1 is Ferrari. They said they were dedicated to Formula 1 and would not be leaving anytime soon. And it was also announced Ferrari put forward the new changes for 2020, saying that they would wish to go back to V12 engines and relive the 90s. And although they said they never meant their potential in the 90s, they said they wanted to give it a go back at V12. All the other teams agreed that V12s would be a suitable way forward for 2020 and set a work around creating a new engine, with several other manufacturers sitting on the board, such as Aston Martin, Audi and Porsche, were invited to give their analysis of the new engines. All of them were looking forward to seeing what 2020 could produce. It was also announced there would be some aerodynamic changes with new front and rear wing changes to match. Subsequently, Ferrari were also the first team out at pre-season testing at Catalonia. And it had been a tunnel season for Ferrari as they had lost Sebastian Vettel to Mercedes. Vettel said he had become frustrated with his treatment as not being equally treated compared to Hamilton. So Ferrari decided they would promote Charles Leclerc after his promising season at Renault last year. This came to the annoyance of Antonio Giovinazzi, who had to remain at Alfa Romeo. Although Ferrari later came out and said that they would only be picking drivers from Alfa Romeo in the future, this didn't dub away from Giovinazzi's annoyance. The retained world champion Lewis Hamilton was looking to add to his collection of 3 world championships. Subsequently, Ferrari looked like they would be setting the pace early on, although Mercedes were looking to say and they were catching up. Speaking of Mercedes, they have Vettel as their main driver. He confirmed that he would be the number 1 driver of the team and would be supported by former driver Valtteri Bottas. Bottas, of course, who declined to move to IndyCar with Haas after they left the sport at the end of 2017. Mercedes said they have sorted out their problems, and unfortunately have lost Fernando Alonso, who retired from the sport, and Max Verstappen, who grew tired with the performance of Mercedes in 2017 and decided to leave. Bottas says he was looking forward to seeing what the new Mercedes could offer, and says he was looking forward to supporting Vettel in winning the World Championship. Verstappen left to Red Bull. Unfortunately, Red Bull have not had a smooth winter. Sainz had already decided he would be leaving the team at the end of 2017, and after learning Verstappen would be coming back to the team, Gasly also decided to be leaving for Renault. Subsequently, Red Bull had a crisis shortage. With no drivers left in its young driver program, they decided they would hire Stoffel Van Dorn on a 1-year contract to support Verstappen in getting the best out of the new regulations for 2020, and also helping Honda Power now in the side to get them the performance they needed to prepare themselves for the new regulations in 2020. Subsequently, Verstappen says he could potentially challenge for the title with Red Bull 2019 should Honda improve themselves later in the season. Aston Martin said they had already been working with Honda as well on providing engine performance. And so, at Toro Rosso's their junior team, there was a big change in there. Hampson left after not agreeing terms with Red Bull, and subsequently Hartley was also dropped for 2019. Subsequently, they decided to hire Pascal Wehrlein after he failed to get a drive at Mercedes, and hired back Danny Kvyat on a short-term contract with the team. Kvyat said he was happy to be back in Formula 1 after the Manor team collapsed at the end of the 2016 season. And Wehrlein and Kvyat said they were looking forward to helping Honda get good performance out the engine. Toro Rosso, however, looked to have poor pace after half their aero team left for Red Bull at the end of 2017. So Hampson left for the new CARLSBERG BMW team. Haas had decided at the end of 2017, they were unhappy with Formula 1, and of course their poor performance at the Italian Grand Prix meant that Gunther Steiner decided that he would, and Gene Haas decided they would sell the team to a joint venture between Carlsberg and BMW, Carlsberg having a 70% stake in the team. And the team would be based in Copenhagen as well, meaning that BMW engineers would have to move to Copenhagen to support the team. Hampson said he was looking forward to seeing what his new venture was happening. Although initial pace was looking they would be in the midfield, they said that Carlsberg and DB were quick learners and say that they had more upgrades to come. They would be supported by Renault engines this year, as a change from Ferrari, who said they would only be supporting themselves in Alfa Romeo. Renault said they were happy to support Carlsberg BMW with an engine. Hampson would be partnered by the Danish driver Kevin Magnussen, his old teammate from the Volvo days, before they collapsed at the Canadian Grand Prix in 2016. Magnussen says he's happy to be back in Formula 1 after being very successful in Formula E since Volvo collapsed. McLaren also entered out after poaching Carlos Sainz from Red Bull. This would mean that McLaren had a very strong line between Ricciardo and Sainz, although they said their car wasn't just there yet. Rumours were also coming out that McLaren Group could be up for sale after Ron Dennis said he would be selling his shares and going into retirement after being placed on gardening leave for a couple of years now. Sheikh Mansour had also grown tired with McLaren performance after it was looking like they would not be pushing forward after all in 2019. Subsequently, the tag ownership of McLaren could come to an end at the end of 2019, and they would listen to offers on both McLaren cars and the entire McLaren group, including its F1 team. Ricciardo and Sainz said they were unfazed by this and said that new ownership could push the team to new heights for 2020, but added that the Renault engine that the team had got for 2019 was a good fit for them. Rumours were coming out, although it was early days, that VW could be gearing up to buy McLaren and put Porsche alongside McLaren for 2020. Both Ricciardo and Sainz say they need to work with the team to push them for podiums and victories in 2020. Next out was Force 1. Force 1 were the replacement for Force India after Mercedes bought them out as a junior team after Force India boss Vijay Mallya was extradited to India to face corruption charges. Subsequently, after Verline couldn't agree a deal to join Mercedes, Force 1 had signed Russell alongside Ocon. This meant that the Brit joins Force 1 and said he was happy to join alongside Esteban Ocon and show that he has what it takes for a potential Mercedes drive in 2020. Ocon says that he was disappointed Mercedes had turned him over and may look for a drive elsewhere in 2020. Both would look to put Force 1 in the midfield, although early performance says they may look to struggle compared to McLaren and Renault. Alfa Romeo also turned out as a junior team to Ferrari. Having already signed Antonio Giovinazzi, they just needed a driver to partner him after Mick Schumacher announced he would be going back to Formula 2 to prepare himself for a title challenge potentially for that season. He says also that he potentially could come back for 2020, although he says that he wants to focus on proving himself that he could. He does have what it takes, despite not missing out in 2016 on the GP2 title. So he goes back to Formula 2 and is replaced by Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen returns to Formula 1 after being away since the end of 2015. Räikkönen says he was only there to get Alfa Romeo into the midfield teams, and says that he'll be looking to support Giovinazzi in his bid to get a Ferrari drive in the future. And the penultimate team to enter were Renault. Renault, of course, had signed Pierre Gasly to join Nico Hülkenberg after losing Charles Leclerc to Ferrari at the end of 2017. Although their initial pace looks poor, they said they got big upgrades, which mean they could be pushing for victories later in the season, although this could be a little bit optimistic for them. Renault have also announced they had closed their Formula E team to focus entirely on Formula 1. Gasly says he was looking to commit to Renault and says that he was looking forward to seeing what Renault had to offer in 2019 and, of course, for the new regulations in 2020. The final team to show out was Williams. Williams, who had a horrid ride in 2017, announced that they had been joined with a 30% buyout by Audi. Audi had been, after losing its court case against Red Bull, decided they needed to put that V6 engine into use, and after this would be the last year of the V6 engines, they decided to help Williams out and partially buy out the team. Williams retained Sergio Perez after some good qualifying, although they sacked Romain Grosjean. Subsequently, they decided to hire back Nico Rosberg. Rosberg, who was now appointed the head of Audi Racing with Williams, decided to sign a deal to become Williams' driver for 2019. He said he would be looking to push for victories later in the season, but early pace intends that they need a little bit of work on the team. And that is the 10 teams that will compete in 2019. Although Mercedes and Ferrari look to have the upper pace, teams such as Williams say that they will be able to catch up. And now it is time to look at the calendar. With Liberty Media not having a controlling only a minority stake in Formula 1, Brazil was moved back to round 1, with the United States Grand Prix moved to round 2, and Canada an early round 3 after FOM with its new owners and its new partnership and owners decided that they would like to regionalise races into an early Americas round, then a European round, followed by an Asia round finishing in Australia. This meant that Canada had to move to round 3, although they said that the weather in Montreal would held with the early May setting. The European round then sees the return of the French Grand Prix at the Circuit Paul Ricard. Many see that this is a fraudulent sponsorship after the agreement with France was agreed by then Suprema of the sport, Bernie Eccleston, whose family owns the Circuit Paul Ricard circuit. Monaco also features alongside Italy, Austria. Hungary maintains a contract after its good showing in 2016, along with Germany, Belgium. Germany, of course, returning. Belgium, Britain, Azerbaijan returns to the turn after being away since 2016. And then finishing up with China, Japan and Australia. This 16-round format was happy with everybody happy, and they said they were looking forward to getting along with the full 16-race championship. And that is it for pre-season testing. Join us again next week to see who will be able to win the first race in Brazil. Until then, I'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you for watching and goodbye.